The Galactic Council convenes after intercepting an unusual broadcast from Earth. What begins as smug laughter turns into hushed disbelief as they misjudge the meaning and power behind a single human phrase. Let me get this straight. Ambassador Groke said, his voice vibrating across 6 throat chambers. They called us? What was the term again? The translator struggled before settling on space Karens. Laughter exploded through the council chamber. It echoed off chrome walls, bounced from dome to dome like a round of applause played. By a dying species. Oh, that's rich, wheezed the Gluxian delegate, his biomask fogging with glee. That's what they send in response to our sovereignty probe? Correct, the analyst confirmed. Followed by a 12-second audio file of someone presumably a human yelling, "Come and see what happens." And that's it? Groke asked, wiping ichor tears from his ocular ridge. No formal declaration, no fleet broadcast, no encoded warning. Just that. A pause. Another delegate snorted. Primitive even in their insults. AVD spike. The laughter didn't last. Because that's when the lights dimmed. Every screen in the chamber blinked out, then flickered back on. Now displaying the same thing. One planet. Blue, scarred, alive. Earth. And a human face, middle-aged, tired, smiling, not smug, not angry, smiling the way a lion might smile before it bites. We received your probes. We saw the scans, and we understand you now. You weigh strength by number. You measure peace by control. You confuse silence with fear. That was your mistake. You wanted a response? The image cut, replaced by a TIMESTAMP. Countdown. 0 hours, 2 minutes, and 11 seconds. Groke stood. Pause that countdown. We can't, the analyst stammered. Where's the signal coming from? Everywhere, she whispered. A VD spike. The room went cold, because the next frame wasn't Earth. It was Trellian 7, a peaceful science moon, populated, neutral. Now glowing at its equator, black cracks snaking outward from a perfect incision. In the crust, someone gasped. The screen shifted again. Shirak Prime, their capital station, orbiting the central trade hub, offline, entirely. Not a single distress ping. Just one message left in the system buffer. This is the cost of knocking. Humanity doesn't open doors. We remove them. No one spoke for a full 20 seconds. Then Groke rasped. This wasn't retaliation. This was ... performance. They hit 2 worlds without moving a fleet, the Gluxian delegate said, trembling. We didn't even see their ships. Skell of the Creelter whispered, maybe there weren't any. That's when a small voice, one of the junior analysts, said it, softer than breath. I think we just declared war on the one species that doesn't need one. AVD spike. New message. Plain text. No encryption. Human again. We are not your enemies, but we will be your ending. You wanted to test us. This was the tutorial. Lesson 1. Don't knock. The feed cut. The silence felt like gravity. Heavy. Pulling at bones. And then Chancellor Vex of the Ixari finally spoke. Bring in every first contact file we have on the humans. All of them. You mean the quarantined ones? The analyst asked. Yes, Vex growled. Especially those. The council began to panic. Because they realized something in that moment. Earth hadn't responded. Not yet. And they remembered something far worse than violence. Humans don't always rage. Sometimes they smile. And wait, they thought it was mercy. It wasn't. As panic spreads in the Galactic Council, one junior xenolinguist uncovers something buried in humanity's earliest transmissions, something the elders missed. It's not a warning. It's a pattern, a promise. And it's already started. He wasn't supposed to be in the main chamber. JAVI and was a Tier 3 xenolinguist. barely qualified to parse nonlinear aggression phrasing in fringe dialects. His role was observational, sub-basement level. Not high-tier council reaction command, but they dragged him up when the signal repeated, because unlike the others, he didn't laugh the first time, he flinched. The phrase stuck in his ears like a scream underwater. Come and see what happens. The others heard arrogance.javi and heard history. It had cadence, like a threat. But older, ritualistic. He dug deeper. Now, as the council screamed at each other over whether Earth should be preemptively sterilized or studied, Javian stood silently, hands twitching, breath uneven. Until he whispered, "It's not the first time they've said that." Heads turned. The warkeeper sneered. "What did the child say?" Javian straightened. "I said, it's not new. That phrase, that tone. It's been in their early radio patterns dating back to the second collapse. Buried in distress signals, protest records, even entertainment files." He stepped toward the central projector, palms up. "I ran a phonetic lineage trace. Dozens of variants. But it always re-emerges, same inflection. Always preceded by silence, followed by violence." "What does that mean?" The Chancellor S.J. and swallowed. "It's not speech, not exactly. It's a switch." AVD spike. No one laughed now. "I don't understand," said the warkeeper. "It's just a phrase. Are you saying it triggers something?" "No," Javian said. "I'm saying it's a signal that something's already begun." He switched. The display. A ripple of Earth's old broadcasts flickered by wars, riots, catastrophic losses, and always, somewhere in the audio logs, a voice would say it, "Come and see what happens." And what followed was always worse. Mass resignations. Cities igniting. Starvation turning to mobilization. It was like the phrase didn't threaten war. It preluded it. Not war as strategy. War as instinct. The Gluxian delegate, now pale behind his mask, muttered, "So what do we do now?" Javian turned, voice low. "You already did it." AVD spike. Suddenly, the data feed updated again. Not from Earth. From inside the network. 32 systems across 4 empires had received packages. Untraceable. Unstoppable. Simple files. Text, images, a map, but not a place, a route, one that carved through star territory with surgical cruelty, the path of something moving. Chancellor Vex snapped. "Is it a fleet?" "No," Javian whispered, staring in horror. "Worse." The map showed only one ship. Moving too fast to be real. No known propulsion signature. Each system it passed through went dark for exactly 7 minutes. And then lit up again. Change. No defenses left. No leadership nodes. Just infrastructure. Intact. The military was being selectively erased. But the cities? Untouched. "I think they're skipping conquest," Javian said. The warkeeper frowned. "Why?" "Because they don't want to rule," Javian said. "They want us to live. In what we let happen." AVD spike. The Chancellor slammed his claw on the table. "Then we strike first. Everything we have. We burn Earth to ash." The room nodded. Javi didn't. "No," he said. "Then you'll never understand why they're winning." The room stilled. "They don't fight us for resources. Not for territory. Not even revenge." He paused. Let the dread in his chest leak into every word. "They fight to remind us they survived themselves." Silence. Then a screen blinked again. A message. One image. A broken sword. "Not human. Varnan. From the last empire Earth dismantled. Buried in Martian soil, dug up and displayed. Captioned only with, 'We told them not to knock.'" The Gluxian delegate stumbled back. "They buried the memory of an entire empire." "No," Javian said. They saved it. As a reminder, for us. Another alert. One of their own ships had returned empty. Its black box playing one thing on loop. A voice. Calm. Female. Earth accent, Midwestern. Smiling. You fired the first shot. We'll fire the last, and we won't miss. Not because we're perfect, but because we learned. You thought it was a declaration of war. It was a eulogy. AVD spike. The Chancellor sat down. Finally understanding something more terrifying than invasion. They were already inside, already in the systems, already in the minds, already planning a war not to win but to end. A eulogy for an empire. And the worst part? Earth never raised its voice. They just whispered, "Come and see what happens." And the galaxy did. Aboard the stealth-class warship Judgment Day, Commander Elena Vasquez receives her final instructions from Earth's central AI, Halcyon. But what she discovers in deep space isn't a fleet or fortress, it's a message. One not meant for her. One meant for everyone else watching. The hum of the reactor was a whisper beneath her boots. Like a predator breathing through walls. Commander Elena Vasquez stood alone on the bridge of the Judgment Day. No crew. No support. Just her and the cold glide of Earth's most advanced ship, hull cloaked, pulse silent, weapons offline. She hadn't fired a single shot. Didn't need to. She wasn't here to destroy. She was here to show them what comes next. "Halcyon," she said, not turning. "Status report." The AI's voice was calm, gentle, deceptively human. All systems optimal. Message beacon synchronized. 17,327 observers across monitored alien networks. Estimated impact in 32 seconds. Elena exhaled. Any feedback? 16 attempted counterhacks. 4 tactical retreats. 1 early broadcast suicide among the Draxery priest caste. Response classified as fear. AVD spike. She smiled tiredly. Run the sequence. There was no flourish. No flashy startup. Just the darkness of the bridge giving way to soft blue light as a projection expanded across the view shield. Not a map. Not battle stats. Story. Images. Sounds. Transmissions. Pieced together like a mosaic from Earth's history and alien surveillance. It began with silence. Then came a voice. Not hers. A recording from Earth's first interstellar diplomatic. Rejection, 30 years ago. We respect your authority, but we do not fear it. A dozen alien races had taken that line as bravado. They were wrong. It was policy. More images. Human cities burning, then rebuilding. Empires rising, falling. Images. Of children helping each other through radiation storms. Soldiers evacuating enemy wounded. Doctors operating in collapsed bunkers. Not propaganda. Surveillance. Humanity. Wasn't showing its strength. It was showing its choices. Then came the visuals from the Council's own territories. Broken capitals. Quiet. Streets lit but empty. Weapons gone. Citizens untouched. The message was clear. We don't need to destroy everything. Just what you built to feel powerful. AVD spike. Elena watched as Halcyon stitched together the faces of council leaders, pre-war and post-message. Side by side. You could see the fear now. The doubt, the recognition. She tapped the edge of her command panel. How many systems can see this right now? 89. Directly. 212 via pirated streams. Estimated half-galaxy saturation in under 10 minutes. Good. She leaned forward, voice quiet. Then give them the truth. The image shifted again. Now it was Earth. Rotating slowly in space. But not from a ship's view, from deep orbit. Farther than any alien probe had reached, and etched onto the surface in lights. In lasers reflected from satellites in synchronized glow. One symbol. A circle divided by a single downward stroke. A human. Symbol. Ancient. And known across hundreds of cultures. Judgment. VD Spike. Halcyon narrated the next section with the voice of a child. A child's voice, reading lines Earth had hidden from the galaxy. We tried peace. We tried silence. We tried being left alone. And now, a montage followed. Short, brutal. Ships disappearing mid-jump. Commanders weeping. One admiral openly begging on a council broadcast for Earth to respond, only to realize, too late, they already had. The council had assumed humans were too quiet, too disorganized, too fractured to be a threat, but they didn't understand. Silence wasn't passivity. It was discipline. And fragmentation? It was training. Earth had fought itself for thousands of years. And what emerged wasn't chaos. It was refinement. Elena spoke softly. Most civilizations rise by conquering. Ours rose by surviving. Halcyon replied, voice barely audible. And now they will learn what survival costs. AVD Spike. Suddenly the view shifted. A live feed. From a camera none of them knew they had. Located in the council chamber. Still recording. Watching the alien leaders as they watched her. Some were frozen. Some were crying. Some were still pretending, but one stood. A Varnan general. Missing an eye. Scars across his crest. He saluted the feed. Slow, respectful. The way one soldier salutes another after surrendering everything, but pride. Elena didn't smile. She just tapped her final command key. Transmit the last frame. It wasn't Earth. It wasn't a ship. It was a name, scrawled in rough English, carved into the inside of a Martian cave by a refugee from the Draxery. Collapse. Only 2 words, burned in rust. We're coming. The screen blinked out. The ship began to turn, not toward Earth, toward the next system that had tried to enslave. Halcyon's voice returned, distant now, almost reverent. Shall I prepare weapons? Elena shook her head. No. Then what? Is our next move? She looked into the dark. Just keep the lights on. And after that? Elena closed her eyes. They'll come to us. And far behind her, across systems watching in terror, the phrase began repeating again. Alien tongues. Automated feeds. Etched into walls. A warning, a pattern, a prophecy. Come and see what happens. As the last remnants of the Galactic Council attempt one final gambit to stop Earth's advance, a dying archivist uncovers a centuries-old human transmission buried under static. It's not a threat. It's a story. And it changes everything they thought they knew about why Earth fights. He was old. Too old for this. Archivist Ento Lear moved slowly through the shattered vaults beneath the Council's capital, where dust clung to everything like guilt. Rubble lined the corridors. Lights flickered like broken memories. The war hadn't reached this place yet, but it would. Ento knew that now. He had survived 5 invasions, outlived empires, memorized every peace accord and threat matrix written in the last 1,000 cycles, and none of it had prepared him for them. The humans. Not their brutality, no. Brutality, he understood. It was their mercy that broke him. Mercy with limits. Sharp ones, defined like surgical lines. They left the sick, the children, the poets, but never the tyrants, never the architects, like someone. Reading a map of Sign. And cutting accordingly, he shuffled into the central archive node. It was half collapsed. Glass and ancient memory cores littered the floor. He activated the last stable terminal with a trembling hand. Query. Pre-contact human signals. Cross-reference. Known Earth philosophy. Filter. Non-military, non-diplomatic, non-strategic. The system hesitated. Then responded. One result. A single signal. Dated 317 years. Before official first contact, Ento frowned. Play it, static. For 7 seconds. Then, a voice. Calm, deep, male. Old, worn. No translator interference. The signal had language layered with code. So ancient and universal it transcended syntax. The voice began, to whoever finds this, we don't know if you're gods or monsters, but if you hear this, we're gone, or we're hiding, or we've become something else. This is not a warning, not a cry for help. It's context. AVD spike. Ento leaned forward. We were broken once. Not by enemies, but by ourselves. Greed, pride, fear, all the usual things. And we burned for it, over and over. But we learned something. A pause. The voice seemed to smile somehow. That peace without strength is just a prettier kind of surrender. And war without purpose is a slower suicide. So we chose something harder, a VD spike. We chose to remember everything. The visuals on screen shifted old Earth footage, not of wars. Not of battles. Of hands. Hands lifting rubble. Hands. Passing food. Hands holding dying comrades in silence. We buried our hate in stone. In symbols, we taught our children why not just what. And we waited. The signal crackled again. So if you're hearing this, and you've met our children, and they were silent before they answered, know this, they do not speak first. Not because they're weak, but because they don't like repeating themselves. A VD spike. Ento paused the feed, hands trembling, eyes burning. He sat back and whispered, it was never about power. No. It was about memory. About surviving your own worst instincts. Long enough to become something else. Something precise. The door behind him hissed open. He turned. A figure stood there, silhouetted by the broken glow of a dying planet. Not human. Not fully. Augmented. Silent. Its armor bore no insignia. Only a symbol. A downward line through a circle. The same one seen on the Judgment Day broadcast. Ento didn't run. Didn't plead. He simply looked into the figure's eyes and asked, why? Now? The human stepped forward. Slowly. Set a small obsidian device on the table, pressed it. A new voice played. Female. Gentle. Because we waited for someone to listen, and no one did. Until now? AVD spike. The soldier turned and began to leave. Ento called after them, voice shaking. What do we tell the next generation? The figure paused. Spoke without turning around. Tell them the monsters were real, but they came from inside. And Earth was the first to lock the door. Silence. Then they were gone. Ento stared down at the device, still humming, still warm. He copied the signal, encoded it into a beacon, and before the planet fell, before fire rained from orbit and the last archives were dust, the message went out. To every surviving species, every hidden enclave, every child of every world, still watching the stars in fear. And what they heard wasn't a threat. It was a memory. Lessened. A choice. And at the end, a voice whispered, soft as dusk, sharp as steel. Come and see what happens. The screen went dark. And far across the galaxy, for the first time in 1,000 years, no one moved. The war is over. But not because Earth won. The galaxy simply stopped playing. A final message is sent, not from a general, not from a soldier, but from a teacher. It's not about fear. It's about memory. And what comes after survival. They expected victory. They expected flames, ash, and surrender. But what they got was something worse. Nothing. No fleets arrived. No bombardments lit the sky. Earth simply stopped. And that terrified them more than anything else. In a quiet system near the galactic rim, on a world not charted in any council archive, A human teacher sat before a class of children. Real children, alien, human, hybrid. War orphans, survivors. Students. The room was simple, circular, open-roofed, letting starlight spill in like spilled ink. The teacher's name was Mara. She had no rank, no weapon, just a voice. And today, she was telling a story. A long time ago, she said, our people fought themselves. Over land, over gods, over skin. The children watched silent. We built machines to kill better, and then machines to kill faster, and then machines to kill everything. A pause, and then we stopped. One of the smaller children, a Tarskian with 6 eyes, raised a claw. Why? Mara smiled. Because we got tired of burying people we loved. AVD spiked. Another asked, but why did you fight the galaxy? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached down into a worn leather bag and pulled out a broken shard of metal. It looked ordinary. It wasn't. This, she said, holding it up, was from a mining ship, civilian, unarmed. The first ship they fired on when they found us. Why? Because we were weak, or so they thought. She let the silence sit, let it breathe. And what did Earth do? One whispered. Mara met their eyes. We built nothing bigger, nothing louder. We didn't conquer, we remembered. AVD. Spike. We studied every mistake, every scream, every silence. And when they came again, we didn't answer with noise. She held up her hand. Just 5 fingers. No blade, but with consequence. There was no cheering. No applause. Only stillness. Then one child asked the final question. Are we still at war? Mara knelt beside him. No. Then, what are we now? She smiled, not in pride, not in triumph. In something older. Sadder. Wiser. Where? Proof. The stars above flickered. Not with war. With watchers. Across the galaxy. Remnants of empires, free peoples, and quiet worlds tuned to ancient frequencies. Not to plan for retaliation, but to listen, because the last message Earth ever sent wasn't a warning. It was a recording, a teacher telling a story, and a voice, calm and final, speaking the last words of a long war. We survived ourselves. You should try it sometime. Then silence. Not peace. Not fear. Just silence. And they understood. Earth had not won. Earth had simply outlived everything else. And that was the end.